The wind slammed the old mansion's front door shut behind her. Anna froze. She hadn't touched it. A low creak echoed down the hallway. Cold air rushed past her legs like something had just moved, fast. She told herself it was just the draft. Just the storm outside. Just nerves. But when she stepped into the parlor and saw the portrait hanging above the fireplace, her heart stopped. It was her mother. Not a woman who looked like her mother. It was her. The same smile. The same necklace. The same faint scar above her right eyebrow. And yet, her mother had never been here. She had died when Anna was 5. That's what everyone had told her. So why was her portrait inside a place no one in her family had ever mentioned? And more importantly, why were her mother's eyes scratched out? Anna blinked hard, as if her eyes were playing tricks on her. But no, when she opened them again, the face was still there. Familiar, warm, and defaced. Long, deep scratches had gouged out both eyes, like someone had taken a knife to the canvas in pure rage. Her breath caught in her throat. She took an instinctive step back, nearly tripping over an old rug. "Jesus," she whispered. Her voice felt small in the vast, cold room. Outside, the wind howled louder. Thunder rolled in the distance. The storm was closing in. Anna hadn't planned to stay long. The mansion was supposed to be abandoned, just an old family property listed in a will she'd never heard of before last month. Her mother's name had been mentioned in the legal documents, though, alongside a mysterious inheritance. She had driven 6 hours to get here, expecting maybe a crumbling farmhouse. What she found was a full-blown Victorian mansion tucked behind thick woods and covered in ivy, its driveway eaten by weeds. And now this. Her mother's portrait. She stepped closer. The painting was beautifully done, except for the damage to the eyes. The background looked like this very room, same wallpaper, same fireplace, even the same chipped candlestick sitting on the mantel. Like the painting had been made in this house. Recently, maybe. But that wasn't possible. Her mother died 21 years ago. Her fingers hovered near the frame. The wood was old and heavy, carved with roses and thorns. A strange feeling crawled up her spine as she leaned in. It was almost like the air changed, cooler, heavier. Something whispered behind her. She spun around. Nothing. Just the empty hallway. Dust and silence. But it didn't feel empty. Not completely. Anna tried to shake off the chill creeping through her body and headed to the foyer. She needed to call someone, maybe her aunt, maybe the lawyer. Someone had to explain this. She pulled out her phone. No signal. Of course. Of course, she muttered, tapping the screen uselessly. No Wi-Fi. No bars. Nothing. She turned back to the portrait room. That was when she noticed something else. There were footprints in the dust. They weren't hers. 2 sets. One came from the far corner of the room. The other led into it, but didn't leave. Her heart pounded in her chest. She hadn't seen anyone when she arrived. She was sure of it. The place was locked. She'd had to force the front door open with her shoulder. So how? A floorboard creaked above her. Someone was upstairs. She backed slowly toward the door. "Hello?" she called out, trying to keep her voice calm. "Is someone here?" No answer. Another creak. This time closer to the stairwell. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the small flashlight from her car's emergency kit. It wasn't much, but better than nothing. Her instincts told her to leave. Get out. Drive back to town. But the road was already half flooded. She might not make it through. Besides, she couldn't leave now. Not after that portrait. If this house had secrets about her mother, secrets no one had told her, she needed to know. She took a deep breath and headed toward the stairs. The upper floor was darker. The windows were covered with heavy drapes, and the hallway stretched long and narrow like a tunnel. Her flashlight cast long shadows on the floor. Rooms on both sides, doors closed. She pushed one open. An old bedroom. Dust everywhere. Cobwebs on the bedposts. Nothing unusual. Second room, some kind of study. Books falling apart on the shelves. A broken clock ticking strangely, though its hands hadn't moved in years. She was about to check the next room when she heard a thud, 2 doors down. She froze. That wasn't wind. She stepped slowly, carefully, the flashlight shaking slightly in her hand. She reached the door where the sound came from. It was ajar. She pushed it open with her foot. Nothing inside. Just a nursery. A crib in the corner. A rocking chair facing the window. Old toys on a shelf. Everything coated in time and dust. But there was something on the crib. A stuffed rabbit. Gray, with a torn ear. Her heart stopped again. She had one just like it when she was little. She walked over and picked it up. There, on the left foot, was a faded name written in marker. Anna. She stared at it, suddenly dizzy. It was her toy. Her exact toy. What the hell was it doing here? She dropped it and stumbled backward. Then the chair began to rock. She screamed and ran. Back down the hall, down the stairs, through the foyer. She grabbed the doorknob, yanked. It wouldn't budge. She tried harder. Still stuck. She slammed her shoulder into it. Nothing. It was like it had locked itself from the inside. Panic started rising in her chest. She turned back to the parlor, and screamed again. The portrait was gone. Where it had hung was now just an empty wall. Not even a nail. Her heart thundered in her chest as she backed away. That was when she saw the writing on the mirror above the fireplace. 5 words, drawn in the dust. You were never supposed to come. Anna backed away, trembling. Who's there? She shouted. What is this? No answer. The silence in the mansion was too thick. Like it had swallowed the sound whole. And then, a door creaked open upstairs. Followed by soft, dragging footsteps. Coming down the stairs. The footsteps came slower now, dragging, uneven, like someone limping down the stairs. Anna stood frozen near the fireplace, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, to run, to do something. But her feet wouldn't move. She watched the shadow emerge at the top of the staircase, tall, thin, almost gliding, and vanish again behind the wall. Then silence. No footsteps. No creaks. Nothing. Anna waited. 5 seconds. 10. Still nothing. She finally managed to move, backing toward the hallway that led to the kitchen. Her hand trembled around the flashlight, which was now flickering. Great. Batteries. She stepped into the kitchen, cold, dead, untouched for decades. Dust covered everything. A single plate still sat on the table, with a fork and knife placed neatly beside it. Like someone had left in the middle of dinner, and never came back. She opened a drawer. Found a pair of long, rusted scissors. Not exactly a weapon, but better than nothing. Suddenly, the light above the table flickered on. She hadn't touched a switch. The entire mansion was supposed to have no electricity. That's what the lawyer told her. Power's been shut off for years, he'd said. You'll need a generator if you're going to stay. Anna slowly turned her head to the far end of the kitchen. A woman was standing in the doorway. Mid-50s, pale skin, short gray hair, dressed in what looked like a faded nurse's uniform. Her face was unreadable, and her hands were clasped tightly in front of her. Anna screamed and dropped the scissors. The woman didn't move. Who are you?" Anna managed to ask, heart pounding. Still no response. The woman stared at her like she was trying to remember something. Or recognize her. "I'm not here to steal anything," Anna said, taking a small step back. "This place, this mansion, it was left to me. My name's Anna Morel. My mother's name was Celeste." The woman blinked. Once. Slowly. Then, in a hoarse voice. "You shouldn't have come." Anna stared at her. "Who are you?" "I looked after your mother." Anna's heart skipped a beat. "What?" The woman nodded faintly. "I cared for her when she stayed here." "That's not possible," Anna said. "She died in an accident. When I was 5. She never mentioned this place." The woman didn't reply. She simply walked toward the table and sat down in the old wooden chair like she belonged there. Like she'd been sitting in that exact spot for decades. "She didn't die here," the woman said finally. "She was taken." Anna's mouth went dry. "Taken by who?" The woman looked up at her then, eyes dull but heavy with something ancient. "By them." Anna gripped the edge of the counter. "What the hell are you talking about?" The woman leaned forward slightly. "Not everyone who lives in this house ever leaves. Some disappear. Some stay, but not as themselves. And some, like your mother, become part of it." "Part of it?" Anna said, voice rising. "What does that even mean?" "My mother is dead. I saw her casket." "That was not her body," the woman interrupted softly. "They buried something else. A shell. A lie." Anna's head spun. "You're insane." "I wish I were," the woman whispered. Anna grabbed the flashlight again and stepped forward. "What's your name?" The woman hesitated, as if trying to remember her own identity. Then said, "Martha. I was the nurse here. 40 years ago." Anna stared. That would make the woman at least 70, but she didn't look a day over 55. Before Anna could ask another question, Martha stood up suddenly. "They know you're here now. They've been waiting a long time." "They?" Anna repeated. "Who is they?" But Martha was already walking away. Not toward the front door. Toward the basement. Anna followed. The door to the basement looked like it hadn't been touched in decades, thick wood, layers of peeling paint, and a bolt that had rusted stiff. Martha pulled out a key from her pocket and unlocked it with a smooth twist. Anna didn't even want to ask how she had it. The stairs creaked under their weight as they descended into darkness. "Your mother didn't run away," Martha said quietly as they moved deeper. "She didn't abandon you. She tried to protect you. That's why she left." "She didn't leave," Anna said. "She died." "No," Martha said. "She escaped." They reached the bottom of the stairs. The air was ice cold. Anna swung the flashlight around, and gasped. The walls were covered in portraits. Dozens of them. Some full-sized, some small. Men, women, even children. All painted with incredible detail. Some looked serene. Some terrified. Some, lifeless. Anna walked to the nearest one. It was a man in his 30s, with sunken eyes and a terrified expression. The plaque beneath it read, "Jonas Reed. Returned 1986. Memory, failed." She looked at the next one. "Marilyn Cross. Returned 1994. Memory, corrupted." And then she saw it. Celeste Morel. Return 2002. Memory, locked. It was her mother. But this was not the same portrait as the one from the parlor. Here, her eyes were not scratched out. They were full of pain. And something else. Terror. Anna turned to Martha. "What is this?" "They're not just portraits," Martha said. "They're vessels. Echoes of what was taken. Everyone who's ever disappeared in this house is still here. In some form." "No," Anna said, backing away. "No, this is sick. This is some twisted museum." "You don't have to believe me," Martha said gently. "But you felt it the moment you walked in, didn't you? The house knew you. It pulled you here." Anna wanted to scream. Run. Something. But then her eyes landed on the final portrait in the row. It wasn't finished. It had no face yet. Just the shape of a woman. Same hair. Same build. The plaque read, Anna Morel. Arrived 2023. Integration, pending. Anna's legs buckled. She grabbed the wall to steady herself. "What is this? Who put this here?" Martha didn't answer. Because she was no longer standing beside her. She was standing inside the wall. Or behind it. It was hard to tell. Her body was fading, becoming translucent, like a figure behind frosted glass. "I've been here too long," Martha said, her voice echoing strangely. "They're pulling me back. I can't stop it." "Wait!" Anna shouted. "What do I do? How do I stop this?" But Martha only said one thing before she vanished completely. "Look in the mirror. That's where she last tried to reach you." Then the light went out. And Anna was alone in the dark. She scrambled back up the stairs, gasping, heart racing. The portrait room. She had to get back there. She burst into the parlor. The wall where the portrait had hung was still empty. But now, the mirror was fogged. From the inside. As if someone had breathed on it from behind the glass. And slowly, letters began to appear in the mist. Anna. The well. Before midnight. She stared, stunned. The mirror stopped fogging. The message was clear. Anna turned and ran toward the back of the house. She didn't know where she was going. But something deep inside her did. A memory, buried under years of silence. The backyard was overgrown and wild. But in the center of it all was an old stone well. She reached it just as thunder cracked again overhead. Inside, the darkness stretched deep. She dropped her flashlight down. It landed with a splash, and illuminated something. A hand. Floating just below the water's surface. Rain began to fall. Not a light drizzle, but a sudden, cold downpour, as if the sky had been holding its breath and finally let go. Anna stood at the edge of the stone well, soaked, trembling, and staring into the impossible. There was a hand in the water. Pale. Still. Almost glowing under the beam of her fallen flashlight. It wasn't moving. Was it a mannequin? A statue? Or? A groan bubbled up from deep below. She staggered back, slipping on the wet grass, her breath catching in her throat. Something, or someone, was down there. Help. The word was faint, muffled by water and time. Anna froze. It was a woman's voice. "Who's there?" she shouted down into the well. No reply. She dropped to her knees at the edge, peering deeper. Her flashlight, now barely visible, spun slowly in the water, casting eerie shadows across slick stone walls. But the hand, and the voice, were gone. All that remained was silence, and the sound of rain pounding on the leaves around her. She didn't know how long she knelt there, soaked and shaking. All she knew was that she couldn't leave. Not yet. Because deep down, in her bones, she knew that voice. It was her mother. She raced back inside the mansion, heart thudding, clothes clinging to her skin. The hallways felt darker now. Heavier. As she stepped into the parlor, something caught her eye, the mirror. It was fogged again. Not from the weather, but from within. Letters slowly formed as if an invisible finger traced them across the glass. Don't trust her. Anna stared. Was it her mother again? Or someone else? Martha? The house? Or was she finally losing her mind? She needed answers. Now. She made her way back toward the basement, hesitant this time, flashlight in hand, scissors tucked into her belt like a poor man's dagger. The portraits were still there. Dozens of them. And now, there was a new one. It wasn't finished. Just like before. But this time, it had more shape. Anna's face was slowly taking form. A slight frown. Eyes barely sketched. Shadows curling around the edges. The plaque now read. Anna Morel. Integration, initiated. A sound behind her, like a foot dragging. She spun around. Martha stood at the top of the stairs. She looked different. Her eyes darker. Her mouth drawn in a crooked smile. And her hands, wet. You went to the well, she said softly. Anna stepped back. You told me to. No, Martha replied, stepping down the stairs slowly. She told you to. Anna's grip tightened on the flashlight. She who? Celeste. My mother? Martha's smile faded. She's not who you think she is. Anna was done playing games. Start explaining, she said, her voice steady now. No riddles. Just the truth. Martha stopped halfway down the stairs. The shadows seemed to wrap around her like vines. Your mother came here when she was pregnant with you. This house wasn't in your family's name by accident. She was brought here. By who? Martha's lips twitched. By Hullamore. The name sounded old. Heavy. Like it belonged in another century. This mansion, Martha continued, was a sanctuary for those who practiced memory separation. Anna blinked. Memory what? They experimented on minds. Erased trauma. Extracted guilt. Locked away pain. They believed they could cure suffering by separating it from the soul. They called it integration therapy. Your mother was their finest subject. The words felt like ice in Anna's blood. You're lying, she whispered. Martha's eyes glinted. Then why don't you remember your 6th birthday? Anna froze. It was true. She had memories of being 5. Of her mother brushing her hair. Of a blue sweater with ducks on it. But after that, it was all black. No 6th birthday. No 7th. Just a blur. You weren't just her daughter, Martha continued. You were her tether. Her anchor to what they tried to take from her. Anna took another step back. This is insane. They used the well to erase pain, Martha said. To drown it. But sometimes, what they put down there, fought to come back. Anna turned and ran. She didn't care what Martha said anymore. She needed to see for herself. She needed to know. She ran up to the attic, the only place she hadn't searched yet. The stairs groaned beneath her feet as she climbed. The air grew thick. Like breathing through wet cotton. She pushed open the attic door. Inside, dozens of boxes. Covered furniture. Old trunks. And in the far corner, a wooden wardrobe. She walked to it, drawn by something deeper than logic. Inside was a stack of journals. And at the bottom, a photo album. She opened it. The first picture was her mother. Celeste, young, smiling, holding baby Anna. Beside her, a man Anna didn't recognize. And behind them, the mansion. She flipped the page. Then another. Each photo showed her mother growing thinner. Sadder. Distant. And then, a photo that froze Anna's blood. It was her mother again. But something was wrong. Her eyes, they were hollow. Not just an expression. Physically hollow. Black pits in her face. And written underneath, in trembling ink. She's still in the water. Suddenly, the attic light flickered. Anna turned, and screamed. Martha stood in the doorway. But her face, it wasn't Martha anymore. It was warped. Her eyes pitch black. Skin stretched tight like old leather. Her mouth moved, but the voice was not hers. She's calling you. She needs you down there. Anna threw the book at her and ran, heart pounding, limbs shaking. Down the stairs. Past the parlor. Through the kitchen. Out into the rain again. She reached the well. No hesitation this time. She grabbed the rope tied to the rusted pulley and began to lower herself down. Water splashed against her boots. The air grew colder with every inch. Finally, her feet touched the surface, then broke through. She took a deep breath and dove under. Silence. Then, the sound of voices. Distant. Whispering. Images flashed in her mind. A room with white walls. Machines. Wires on her mother's head. A door marked Hollowmoor Institute. Then, screaming. A child's voice. Her own. Mommy, don't go. Back in the present, Anna opened her eyes underwater. Something shimmered ahead. A shape. A woman, floating. Her face, exactly like Anna's. But older. Wiser. Sadder. Her mother. Celeste. Their hands touched. And in that moment, everything returned. Memories. Hidden for decades. The institute. The experiments. The escape. The lies told to protect Anna. She wasn't abandoned. She was rescued. But something had pulled Celeste back. And now, it was pulling Anna too. The water churned. Dark shapes began to swirl around them. Celeste mouthed a single word. Go. Then she pushed Anna upward, hard. Anna burst from the well, coughing, soaked, gasping for air. Lightning cracked across the sky. The mansion behind her was on fire. Windows glowing. Flames licking the roof. Smoke rising fast. And in the mirror above the fireplace, just before the glass shattered from the heat, 5 words appeared. You found the truth. Leave. Anna stumbled to her car. She drove. Faster than she ever had. The rain cleared as the mansion vanished behind the trees. By the time she reached the highway, her phone buzzed back to life. A single voicemail. She played it. The voice on the other end? Her mother's. Soft. Gentle. Tired. Anna. If you're hearing this, you found me. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry I couldn't come back. But I had to protect you. Now run, baby. Run and never return. The house will burn, but it will rebuild. They always rebuild. The road stretched ahead, slick with rain and shrouded in a heavy fog. Anna's hands gripped the steering wheel as if it were the only thing keeping her in the real world. Her mother's voice still echoed in her ears from the voicemail. The house will burn, but it will rebuild. They always rebuild. She didn't understand what it meant. The mansion was gone. She saw it burn. She felt the heat against her skin. It should be over. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. There were still too many unanswered questions: the well, the mirror messages, the secret institute called Hollow, and why her mother's memories were buried not only in her mind, but seemingly in the house itself. Her GPS was frozen. Of course it was. The radio played only static. And the road signs, they all pointed in circles. Each one more confusing than the last. Was she going in the wrong direction? Or was something pulling her back? At the next exit, Anna veered off and pulled into a rundown gas station. The lights flickered. One of the pumps was taped off with yellow caution tape. The windows of the store were caked with grime. A rusty bell jingled when she entered. It smelled like mildew and burnt coffee. The man behind the counter was ancient, skin like worn leather, eyes fogged with cataracts. But when he looked at her, something sharpened in his expression. "You've been to Hollow," he said. Anna blinked. "What?" He nodded toward her, not her face, but her neck. She reached up. There, just beneath her collarbone, was a mark. Like a faint bruise in the shape of a spiral. "It always leaves a trace," the man said. "What do you know about it?" He motioned toward a shelf filled with old local history books. One was missing its spine. Another had a burnt corner. But one title stood out. The Buried Experiments of Hollow. She opened it. A photograph slid out. It was her mother. Younger. Wearing a hospital gown. Standing beside two men in white coats. One of the men was crossing his arms, while the other was circling something on a chalkboard behind them. She flipped to a page titled Integration Phase 4, Memory Transfer and Genetic Anchoring. It detailed how trauma, extreme trauma, could be stored outside the brain. Housed in objects, architecture, even in other people. Some believed pain could be relocated the way organs were transplanted. Anna felt cold all over. Was that what had happened to her? Was that why she remembered so little of her childhood? The old man cleared his throat. "Your mother wasn't the only one. But she was the first to survive. Where's the institute now?" "Closed," he replied. "Technically. But places like that, they never really close." He paused, then leaned in. "They just move." Anna's voice was barely a whisper. "Where?" He tapped the book cover. "If you really want to find it, follow the smoke." She drove again, but this time, not away. She turned the car around and headed back toward the direction of the mansion. But when she reached the spot on the road where the house had stood just hours ago, there was nothing. No smoldering ruins. No fire trucks. No smoke. No sign it had ever been there. Just an overgrown field. Gone. Erased. As if it had never existed. Her heart sank. Was she hallucinating? Was all of it in her head? Then she saw it. Right in the middle of the field, a single brick. Blackened. Cracked. Still warm. She knelt to touch it, and the moment her fingers met its surface, a vision overtook her. She was no longer in the field. She was standing in a white hallway. Clinical. Echoing. Ahead of her, a heavy metal door marked Room 12. Screaming came from inside. A child. Crying for their mother. Anna's body moved on its own, reaching for the handle. But before she could open it, a shadow appeared beside her, tall, faceless, wearing a doctor's coat. The figure spoke in a voice that sounded like many voices at once. Some truths must remain buried. Then everything went black. She gasped, falling backward into the grass, the brick still clutched in her hand. There was something inside it. She could feel it. A vibration. A pulse. She smashed the brick against a stone. It cracked open. Inside, a small, rusted key. And a note, stained and barely legible. It read, "Don't go alone. She will find you. The fourth room holds the rest." Anna had no idea what the fourth room meant. But she had the key now. And that meant someone had left it for her. Her mother, most likely. Back in her car, she laid out the clues. The portrait that painted itself. The well that swallowed pain. The mirror that sent warnings. The man at the gas station. And now, this key. And the message about a fourth room. The fourth room. She thought about the mansion's layout. There were 3 main rooms on the first floor. The parlor, the dining room, and the study. But she remembered something else, a locked room upstairs. The one she hadn't entered. The one she assumed was just another bedroom. Could that have been the fourth? But the house was gone. She stared at the brick again. What if the key didn't belong to the mansion? What if it belonged to Hollowmore itself? Anna began digging. Not physically, digitally. She searched for anything linked to Hollowmore Institute. No website. No reviews. No official record. But deep in a local archive forum, she found an old thread. Former asylum off Route 9. Used in MK-type trials in the 70s. Shut down after fire. Rumors of underground wing still intact. Locals call it the Hollow. Anna didn't wait. She drove straight to Route 9. It took hours to find it. Most of the road had been reclaimed by forest. But eventually, she spotted a rusted gate, overgrown with ivy. Behind it, a long-abandoned driveway leading to what looked like a crumbling chapel. She broke through the gate and parked. The wind whispered through the trees. Crows circled overhead. As she stepped through the chapel doors, she immediately understood, this wasn't just a chapel. It was a front. She moved past the altar, into a back room filled with debris and broken pews. There, beneath a torn rug, was a trapdoor. She used the rusted key. It clicked. And then she descended. The air was damp and foul. The walls pulsed with mold. She turned on her flashlight. The beam illuminated endless hallways lined with padded doors. Most were ajar. Some still had names. One read, Celeste Morel. Anna's breath caught. She pushed it open slowly. Inside was a single chair. And on it, a cassette recorder. She pressed play. If you found this, Anna. I'm sorry. I tried to protect you. But I made choices. Terrible ones. You were never supposed to be part of this. But they couldn't take me without taking something of you. The pain, it had to go somewhere. Tears welled in Anna's eyes. They made me forget you. But I never stopped remembering in my heart. The well holds part of me. But the rest is in the fourth room. Find it. And end this. The tape clicked off. Anna collapsed into the chair. All the memories were returning now. The experiments. The fear. The strange dreams she'd had as a child that now felt like buried memories. Her mother had been fractured. Pieces of her soul stored in the well, the portrait, and now, this mysterious fourth room. Anna stood up. She had to find it. She kept moving. Down another hallway. Then another. Each one more decayed than the last. Rusted doors. Cracked tiles. The occasional scrawl of words on the wall. She watches through glass. Pain is a doorway. Don't let her speak your name. Finally, she found it. A room at the end of a long, narrow corridor. Painted on the door. Room 4. No name. No label. Just a heavy, reinforced door. Her hands shook as she reached for the handle. It was open. Inside, total blackness. But as she stepped in, the lights flickered to life. In the center of the room, a bed. And on it, a figure covered in a sheet. Anna approached slowly. Pulled back the sheet. And gasped. It was her own face staring back at her. Eyes open. Mouth agape. Skin pale as paper. Before she could react, the door slammed shut behind her. Then a voice whispered from the walls. Welcome back. The silence in room 4 was unnatural. Not quiet, empty. Like the air itself had stopped moving. Anna stared at the pale version of herself lying on the metal bed. It looked like her, yes, but older in a strange way. Worn. Hollow-eyed. As if someone had drained all the life out of her soul and left just a husk behind. The body didn't move. But the eyes were open. Staring directly into hers. Anna backed away, heart pounding like a jackhammer. She tried the door behind her. Locked. No handle on the inside. Trapped. Again. Then, slowly, the overhead fluorescent light buzzed and dimmed, not fully off, but enough to cast long, stretching shadows across the walls. The voice returned. Soft. Calm. Female. But, wrong. You made it farther than the others. Anna scanned the room. There were no speakers. No intercom. The voice came from inside the room itself, or maybe inside her mind. Do you remember now? She wanted to scream. She wanted to break something. She wanted out. But instead, she walked back toward the body. Her own face. The older, drained version. Something about it looked familiar, not just in the way all reflections do, but deeper. As if she'd seen this body before, a long time ago. A nightmare. No, not a nightmare. A memory. When she was a child. In a hospital bed. Screaming. Nurses pulling her away from a glass window. And on the other side of the glass, this woman lying still. Lifeless. She remembered saying one thing, over and over. That's me. Why is that me? But they made her forget. Suddenly, a click echoed from behind the bed. A panel slid open on the far wall. Light bled in. Anna approached cautiously. Beyond the panel was another hallway, but this one was unlike the sterile corridors above. It was raw. Carved from earth and stone. Roots crawled along the ceiling. The floor sloped downward. She stepped through. The moment she did, the door slammed behind her. No turning back. The air was colder here. Heavy. Each step felt like wading through someone else's memories. The hallway bent and twisted, no longer architectural but organic, like the inside of something alive. She passed through an archway and entered what could only be described as the mirror room. Thousands of shards. Covering every inch of every wall. No full mirrors, just broken fragments. None of them showed her proper reflection. Each one was different. In one shard, she was screaming in a burning house. In another, she was laughing with a woman who looked like her mother, but they were both children. In yet another, she was bound to a hospital bed, mouth stitched shut, eyes wide with terror. Each mirror was a memory. Not all hers. Some from her mother. Some, perhaps, from others who came before her. She reached for a piece. Her fingers bled the moment they touched it. But behind it, something was hidden. She pulled the shard loose. Beneath it was a small alcove. Inside, a bundle of letters. Wrapped in twine. Yellowed with age. She opened the top one. Dear Anna. If you're reading this, you've gone deeper than I ever wanted you to. But I knew, somehow, one day you would. They tried to break me here. And when they couldn't, they used you instead. You were only 4. They told me you died. But I saw them take you away. And when I fought back, they erased me. But a part of me survived. You saw it. In the painting. In the mirror. Follow the blood trail. You'll find the true room. And when you do, don't believe what it shows you. Mom. Anna's hands trembled. The mirror shards began to hum. A low, vibrating resonance that grew louder, like a swarm of bees in the walls. Suddenly, several shards exploded off the walls and hovered mid-air, forming a swirling circle around her. She ducked, shielding her face, but they didn't strike. Instead, they aligned, like a puzzle, into a single shape. A door. But the doorway didn't lead into another room. It led into another version of the same one. The walls. The floor. Even the scent of rusted metal. All identical, but this version was brighter, as if preserved in time. And in the center of the room stood her mother. Alive. Smiling. Anna stepped through the mirror door. Mom, she said, voice shaking. The woman didn't move. Just stood there, arms wide. Anna ran to her, tears blurring her vision. They embraced. Warm. Real. Her mother's perfume, lavender and charcoal, filled her lungs. But something was wrong. Her heartbeat. It wasn't right. It wasn't there. No pulse. She pulled back. Her mother's face changed, the skin drooping, mouth opening wider than natural, eyes sinking into black voids. Then the voice returned. You were never meant to leave. The room began to decay around her. The floor cracked. The ceiling wept blood. The mirrors shattered back into 1,000 pieces. The woman lunged. Anna grabbed a shard from the ground and stabbed blindly. The figure dissolved into smoke. And then, silence. She fell to her knees. The letters scattered. The mirror door gone. But in the corner of the room, where the ghostly version of her mother once stood, something now rested. A film reel. Labeled simply. Project, Anna. She picked it up. In the back of the room, another door. Unlocked. The next chamber was small. A film projector sat in the center. Old. Covered in dust. But functional. She inserted the reel. The image flickered on the far wall. Grainy black and white footage. A girl. Herself. Sitting at a table. Doctors around her. One voice said. Memory transplant at 84% retention. Personality fractures showing. Begin integration. Another voice. Her mother's anchor is holding. Begin phase 6. Then the screen showed something that broke her. A baby. Crying. The doctors inserted a needle. Then another. Then the crying stopped. The baby's tag read. Morel, Anna. They had done something to her. She wasn't just her mother's daughter. She was the container. Anna collapsed against the wall. It all made sense now. Why her memories felt like echoes. Why the house reacted to her presence. Why her mother's face appeared in mirrors, portraits, voices. Because their identities had been fused. And the only way to save herself was to separate the two. Suddenly, alarms blared. The projector sparked. The room shook. From behind the wall came a low, thunderous growl. Something had been awakened. She ran. Corridor after corridor. Flickering lights. The mirrors now screaming with voices from the past. Help me. They lied. She's still in there. Don't trust the final door. Finally, she reached a stairwell leading up. A hatch at the top. Heavy. Bolted. She climbed. Pushed. It opened into blinding sunlight. She emerged into a field of grass. Real. Alive. The institute gone. Buried once more. But in her hand, the reel remained. She didn't know how she still had it. Just that she did. And as she turned to walk toward the road, a single figure stood in the distance. A girl. Small. 4 years old. Holding a stuffed rabbit. Staring at her. Anna blinked. The girl was gone. But in her place. A mirror. Standing upright. Reflecting nothing. Anna stood in the open field, clutching the film reel tight, sunlight warm on her face yet shadowed by the heaviness in her heart. The institute was buried beneath the earth once more, but the echoes of what had happened there were far from silent in her mind. Her eyes scanned the horizon, searching for the little girl she'd seen. The 4-year-old with the stuffed rabbit who had vanished into thin air. Had she imagined it? Or was that fragment of herself still trapped somewhere between memory and reality? Her breath caught as she heard a whisper carried by the wind. Find me. The voice was faint, almost pleading. But it stirred something in her, a resolve she didn't know she had. The final clue. Anna pulled the film reel out of her pocket and studied it once again. Project Anna. What exactly had they done to her? And why? More than anything, she needed to find that little girl, the part of herself lost in the experiment, the piece she had to reclaim to be whole again. Her fingers trembled as she inserted the reel into the projector she had carried out with her, the old device still functional despite years of abandonment. The flickering black and white images filled the small room she'd set up in a nearby motel. Scenes flashed. Children in white coats, needles, crying babies, cold labs filled with humming machines. Faces she didn't recognize, except one, her mother. In one grainy frame, the mother looked directly at the camera. Her eyes weren't just sad, they were desperate. A note appeared, scrawled in shaky handwriting. The past can't be erased. Only understood. Pieces of a fractured past. Anna sat back, absorbing everything. Her mother's experiments, the Institute's cruel attempts to rewrite memory and identity, and her own life that had been stolen in pieces and stored like treasures, or weapons, in places no one was meant to find. The mansion with the painted portrait. The well that swallowed pain. The mirror that warned. The underground facility with its locked rooms and spectral reflections. Each had been a piece of the puzzle, one she'd had to live through to understand the whole. And now she was ready to confront the last fragment. The return to the well. There was only one place left to go. The well. Where her mother had said pain was stored. Where part of her mother, and herself, still lingered. Anna drove back to the old estate's grounds, now silent and empty, the mansion gone but the well still standing like a sentinel. As she approached, the air grew thick with memories. She knelt beside the well's edge and peered into the darkness. It was bottomless. Or so it seemed. She hesitated, then lowered the flashlight into the shaft. The beam caught something metallic near the bottom, a small box. With all her strength, she found an old rope hidden nearby and lowered herself down. The walls were cold and damp, every breath echoed. When she reached the bottom, she grabbed the box and opened it. Inside, a diary. The diary of Celeste Morel. The handwriting was her mother's, uneven, rushed. The pages told a story of fear and hope intertwined. They took my memories and my soul, but they could not take my love for Anna. I hid her memories here, fragments of who she is and who we were, hoping one day she would find them and reclaim herself. One entry chilled Anna to the bone. If you read this, my daughter, know that you are stronger than the darkness that tried to consume us. Your memories are not a curse but a key. To freedom. To healing. To the future. Tears blurred her vision. For the first time, Anna felt a connection, not just to the woman who had been taken from her, but to herself. She wasn't broken. She was whole, because she had survived. The final confrontation. Suddenly, a voice called from behind. Anna. She spun around. A figure stepped from the shadows. It was the woman from the mirror room, the spectral version of her mother. Only now, she looked less menacing and more human. Why did you stay? Anna asked. I stayed to protect you, her mother said. To keep the darkness at bay. Anna took a step closer. You could have fought. You could have saved yourself. Her mother smiled sadly. Sometimes, the greatest battle is knowing when to stay. When to wait for the right moment. Anna nodded, understanding finally dawning. Her mother's sacrifice had not been in vain. Together, they stood by the well, feeling the weight of the past lift slowly from their shoulders. A new beginning. Anna climbed out of the well, the diary in hand. The sun was setting. The world was quiet again. But inside her, something was reborn. The fragments of her memories began to weave together into a story, not just of pain and loss, but of resilience and hope. She knew there would always be shadows. But she also knew she was no longer afraid. The lesson. In the end, Anna learned that the past, no matter how dark or fractured, could never truly destroy the human spirit. The key to survival was not to erase the pain but to face it. To accept it. And to find strength in the broken pieces. Because sometimes, the most beautiful reflections come from the darkest mirrors. Epilogue. Anna stood at the edge of the field, watching the stars emerge. In the distance, a child's laughter echoed, a memory or a promise. She smiled. Her mother's portrait may have haunted the mansion.